Welcome to Wallybois Whiteboard Wednesdays, and today I want to share with you the history of Stanley hand planes. Or anyway, for what I've managed to learn and stick in this little head of mine, Stanley hand planes. Well, they've been an iconic part of my woodworking career. Ever since I started out woodworking at a very early age, I think I was about 10 or 11, when I got my first Stanley hand plane. Actually, my first hand plane was one of them surf form things. Yeah, great, but like a rasp. Yeah, take the skin off your feet. But my first actual Stanley hand plane was the Stanley Handyman number 4, and it was a plastic handled, traditional sort of metal bodied hand plane, but you know, it was a good little tool to start out with. The only thing is I didn't know how to sharpen it. It's not born out of sentiment, my fondness for the Stanley hand plane, but the fact is they are pretty darn good tools. You know, I've been using them for years now, and woodworkers like myself, they source these things, they look out for them, they search and search and search so they can restore them, because they are such good tools. But who was Stanley? Well, Stanley wasn't a thing, it was a person. It was this guy, Frederick Trent Stanley. He was born in 1802 in New Britain, Connecticut. Frederic, he had a bit of a rough start in life, you know, in his marriage and what have you. You know, he didn't get divorced. The poor woman, she died at the age of 28. And shortly after, his 2 sons also died. His 2 younger sons, because he had 3 sons, died of scarlet fever as well. Now, Frederick, he kind of suffered somewhat. He had a bit of a hard time, you know. It's a lot to deal with, isn't it? You know, he's lost his wife and he's losing his kids. He's only got 1 son left. You know, I suppose what I have to do. So what he does is he goes and moves in with his brother William, who's actually his business partner. What we should really remember is it's not just that Frederick Trent Stanley is the name that we put to Stanley tools, but also his brother William Stanley. Together, William Stanley and Frederick Trent Stanley, what they did is they founded the Stanley Bolt Manufacturing Company in 1843. Frederick Stanley was only 41 years of age. So at the age of 41, they founded the Stanley Bolt Manufacturing Company. Stanley Bolt Manufacturing was doing so well, pretty much on the basis of the fact that they had a very good customer service, and it was becoming renowned worldwide, because in 1870 they started exporting to the United Kingdom. Absolutely marvellous. During the 1860s there was a bit of a revolution. Well, we had the Industrial Revolution anyway, but we also had a bit of a revolution regarding the hand plane. Originally, hand planes looked a little bit like this. They were wooden. And this one here is what we call a coffin plane because of the shape of a coffin. Charming, eh? But the metal-bodied hand plane started raising and showing its face and what have you, and it was becoming popular as an alternative to the wooden hand plane. The wooden hand plane would traditionally be made by the carpenters themselves, but the metal-bodied hand plane was a product. It was made in a forge, and in this case it would be made at the Stanley Works. Okay then, so let's get into the chronology of the Stanley expansion. First of all, Stanley actually started another company. We had the Stanley Bolt Manufacturing Company, but then in 1853 they started the Stanley Works, which was good timing because in the 1860s the metal-bodied hand plane design and manufactured by smaller foundries all over the place, all different models. And Stanley decided that he was an industrialist, so what he did was gobble up all these smaller companies, and if they didn't accept his offer, he would bury them. And he was well placed to do so because the Stanley Works, it was a very strong company. It wasn't just the Stanley Works, it was being supported by the original company, which was the Stanley Bolt Manufacturing Company. Oh, hello! Welcome to my woodworking channel, Whiteboard, the place where you'll learn woodworking tips and tricks. And if you'd be most kind, hammer that subscribe button. Anyway, it's time to get back to the video. So, with the expansion of the company in 1870, they started exporting. In 1870. With the Industrial Revolution as it was, and everyone breathing in polluted air and the smog, the actually, come to think of it, it's a bit like it is now, isn't it? Yeah. Like any industrial revolution, the American Industrial Revolution had its own set of problems. One is the rapid urbanisation and increased population of the towns, causing all sorts of problems with the infrastructure and what have you. Stanley saw it as an opportunity and set course for his own expansion. So Stanley kept his eyes open for other innovative products for which maybe that he could actually either encompass within his own business or buy that business like he has done before. But one particular person, who's another name that we all should recognise, and that is Leonard Bailey. Now Leonard Bailey, he didn't want to sell his business, so he hung on to it. But where Leonard Bailey succeeded where others failed, Leonard Bailey, he was a clever soul. What he did as an inventor and a carpenter, come to that, he would patent all his inventions, including the elements of his inventions, a bit like what Microsoft does or Facebook on Google. You know, there's little bits of their programs and their software and their algorithms, and they patent the elements so they can sell them. They can sell rights to those different elements, and it's pretty much what Leonard Bailey did. So Leonard Bailey was actually quite cunning, really. So with his list of patents and what have you, what he ended up doing was holding hands with a marriage with Frederick T. Stanley. Well, that went on for a while, and like any marriage, you know, you have the ups and you have the downs, but it was pretty turbulent. Frederick Stanley and Leonard Bailey got a divorce. They parted ways because they just couldn't get on, and there's a lot of disagreements regarding the patents and the royalties and various other issues. So after their sad marital breakup, Leonard Bailey went his separate ways and carried on making his own hand planes under the Victor and Defiance brand. Now, one of my planes, like you can see here, this Stanley Bailey number 7, has Victor hand-forged plane irons installed. I very much doubt it's the same Victor. Sadly for Leonard Bailey, his plane manufacturing company, well, it failed. Eventually it failed. It went on for a little while and then failed. Unlike Stanley, which just got stronger and stronger and stronger and carried on gobbling up other companies. But the problem for Stanley was the pattern of hand plane that they were promoting and building still. Remember, they've got all the casts and the dies, etc. for this particular model of hand plane, was pretty much a Leonard Bailey design. And Leonard Bailey had their patents and copyright on these designs. So after many a court case against the plaintiff, Frederick T. Stanley, Leonard Bailey, he did okay really, as an inventor and a designer. So let's recap. Frederick T. Stanley, who lost his wife at the age of 28 and his 2 earlier sons, he then went to live with his brother, got in partnership with Leonard Bailey in 1825. They fell out of love. Leonard Bailey went to build his own plane range called the Victor and the Defiance, but Stanley had to go through the courts because of patents and copyright infractions. But still, their business grew and they got massive profits. Although in 1883, Frederick T. Stanley died, but the company carried on. The family took over the company. Another company started by another Stanley, a Henry Stanley, which was the Rule and Level Company, then merged in 1920 with Stanley Works. And soon the Stanley name was pretty much becoming a household name, not just amongst carpenters and joiners and other professionals, but also for DIYers. Stanley carried on using the Bailey name on their hand planes for decades to come, and it was widely recognised as one of the top hand planes you could buy at the time, and it's pretty much why they are still popular today. Stanley Works merged with the Rule and Level Company, which was also started by another Stanley, Henry Stanley to be exact. Yes, the Rule and Level Company. Frankly, I'm a little bit saddened and I shudder with the whole thought of it all, but Stanley has taken a direction that might be for the benefit of the company, but definitely not for the benefit of the end user. And that is that the quality of their products took a bit of a downturn. They're not what they used to be. They have recently tried to revamp their product range, such as the Stanley Sweetheart, which are very good tools, can't deny it. You pay a little bit of a premium price for them, but it's not extortionate. It's not comparable to like Lee Nielsen or Clifton or Veritas and all those sort of brands. Are still relatively reasonably priced, but for the DIY they're a little bit on the higher end. But the sad thing is, the thing that really made me cringe, in 2010 Stanley, wait for it, Stanley Works, they merged again with Black & Decker. Yes, shudder at the thought. Anyway, I hope you found that a little bit, well, informational, I would say, regarding the history of the Stanley hand plane and how we got the Stanley Bailey. So who is or what is the Stanley Bailey? And we know now it was a partnership between Frederick T, or Frederick Trent Stanley, who was born in 1802 and died in 1883, and Leonard Bailey, who was born in 1825. So I hope you found it of interest now, but if you're most kind, then give us a like and subscribe, and maybe press the little bell icon, because then you'll get a warm, fuzzy feeling in your pocket, and that'll be me uploading another woodworking video. And thank you for watching what it was Whiteboard Wednesdays. Well, you managed to get to the end of my video. Well, either I must have grabbed your attention, or you just couldn't be bothered to click off. If you'd be most kind and subscribe, and maybe click the little bell icon, because then you'll get a notification every time I upload a new woodworking video. And I know you'd be excited about that. So, hammer that like button, hammer that subscribe button, and comment below